intelligent and bold, part of the hive mind with birdie stories to unfold. Common sense is a superpower, cutting through the noise, unlocking closed minds, amplifying all our voices.
Phoenix, Phoenix, what do you see? Unlocking knowledge for you and me. The nest is rising strong and true. Sharing wisdom, me and you. Clap, clap, clap for the truth we seek. Every answer, week by week. Phoenix, Phoenix, what do you see? Unlocking knowledge for you and me. The nest is rising strong and true. Sharing wisdom, me and you. Clap, clap, clap for the truth we seek. Every answer, week by week. Phoenix, Phoenix, what do you see? Unlocking knowledge for you and me. The nest is rising strong and true. Sharing wisdom, me and you.
Well, hello everyone on this beautiful Sunday. I hope everyone is doing well. And, it's just one of those days. Welcome in. Hello, no dog left behind. Hey, CW, welcome back, Holly. Happy Sunday indeed. I am good, Truth and Justice. How are you? Christina, welcome. Amanda B. I love that picture. Hey, y'all, number 7. Hey, TK. Love the new intro. I love it too. Thank you, Mick Sparky, whoever you are out there in the digital world. Thank you so much. Hey, KS Jensen Art. And hey, Becca, how are you? Hello, everyone. Please stop with AI thumbnails. They look nothing like real people and you're selling yourself short. Okay, Miss Pottage, I'll throw my real picture up there. Amanda, welcome in. Clap, clap to Amanda. Hello, welcome in. So I hope you all, again, are having a beautiful day. Hey, Terry. And today, we just have this thing that we want to talk about, this book. Let me just turn off that beautiful bird real quick. And as I always say, grab a chair, sit down, make sure it's comfy, and let's talk, because here, Phoenix talks. So, people are talking about this book. What is this book? And one of the things that piqued my interest in reading this book in less than 24 hours was, and if you're not aware, obviously I've got to do some housekeeping. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, it's free, and set all your notifications to all so you don't miss any uploads, videos, or live streams. I'm not screaming at no one. scheduled. And one thing I forgot to say was welcome to the nest, y'all little nesters. So welcome in. Seriously, let's get moving. I want to thank every single one of you and shout out to the replay crew because you guys freaking rock. I've officially been on the tube for a week straight. I am almost at, gosh, I don't even know how many followers I have, but you guys are rocking watching the content. So, one thing that I wanted to talk about was this new book. Everybody was raving about it, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to download it on my Kindle. I'm going to read it. And yeah, it's crazy. And the reason I say it's crazy because this book by James Patterson and Vicky Ward, we've talked about it on a couple of streams, but the Idaho 4, An American Tragedy, this book, in my humble opinion, should be an American tragedy itself. This book, oh, and as you know, I've titled this Idaho 4, Real Facts or Narrative Enhancement. And I just have to say, totally narrative enhancement. And I'll give you some major reasons why. And we'll run through it. I mean, drop a 1 or type yes if you've read this book. Yeah, I'm not impressed with this book. I can't help it. I can't help it either. I mean, he typically writes fiction. In the beginning of the forefront, it basically says that this is, and I'll read it word for word. Let me just pull it up. And as you know, I'm a reader. I like to read. In the very first page, it says, let me just pull this. It says, and this is a quote from the Pullman radio in Washington on the morning news. I couldn't wrap my head around there can't be this kind of evil in our midst. I couldn't just bring myself to do it, to think that. There's no way. This person can't be among us. And then in the very beginning, he basically states, prologue, that this is basically a fiction nonfiction. Okay, so there is some truth, but there's a lot of fiction. And in my humble opinion, they pull the reader into believe the narrative through emotional pull. And it's just disgusting because of the fact that every single person that will read this book, you have to keep in mind, these people may not even have or looked at a court document or watched a single hearing like most of us. Now, when I say most of us here in the hive, in the nest, we are contrarian thinkers. We're thinking for ourselves, wow, this can't be true. Most of it's not, guys, unfortunately, in this book. So, you know, I've compared it to what they've written compared to what's appearing in court records and public evidence. So the first thing that caught my eye in the book, and we'll have a Q&A too if you have not read the book and are interested. The first thing that caught my eye that didn't make sense to me in my human nature was Emily, her nightmare that she talks about versus the original court testimony. Now, I've brought up the PCA several other videos. The documents are out there until they disappear. Mind you, things are starting to disappear now. So, just a side note, real quick. So, Emily, in the book, the narrative suggests that Koberger visited the restaurant where Maddie Mogan worked, asked her out, got rejected, and then returned to target her. This is described, in my humble opinion, as a recurring nightmare of Emily's friend, which questioned what was Emily's deal. No shade, no hate, no nothing like that. But I'm just saying, why would Emily say something like this if it was her nightmare over and over again? Now, the court evidence shows, and I'm going to put this picture back up here. The court picture shows there was no connection. There's no credible evidence that Koberger and Maddie had any personal interaction prior to the murders. None. And obviously, I pulled up an old Reddit screenshot I had in my phone, and someone had put, her dream goes against the case, though the prosecutor opened confirmly they have no evidence of any contacts with any of the victims or the house. So that means he didn't not only not know Maddie, he didn't know Kaylee, he didn't know Ethan, and he did not know Xana. And he did not know the house. So how do we get ourselves to where we are today? We'll discuss it later on. But that was my number one whole beef about this book. And I'm giving you an honest review. There's some good backstory, history, background information, but this book, man, if you need to know for yourself, spend the money. If not, trusted sources to give you the lowdown. I'll do it. The second part that brought to my attention was the book claimed the text included an unverified antidote that survivor Bethany Funk had a taser in her room, but a dead battery. Now, I question this because I heard it was Dylan Mortenstein, and I had to go back and look at it again. So if I go right into my little Kindle and I type in the word, I love Kindle because I can search the whole book. And if I go in and do a little search and I search for taser, taser pops up. And in the book, guys, it specifically says, let me quote the page, chapter 18, page 16. There's 437 to this book, by the way. It says, there's a thud, and Murphy starts to bark. Dylan shuts her door again. Is she going crazy? Now there's silence again. She opens the door for the third time. That's when she sees the firefighter, or at least bleary-eyed, and that's what she thinks she's seeing. He's got bushy eyebrows. He's wearing a black mask. He's holding a firefighter object. Now, stop right there because Bill Thompson said it was a canister-like whatever. But here in the book, it says a firefighting object, which, come on, guys. What do you think a firefighting object would be with the kind of, I mean, we have to use our common sense and put two and two together, right? Now, what kind of objects do firefighters carry? If you're running into a fire and you need to break down some walls or doors, what do you carry? You don't carry a vacuum. Come on, guys. I see you in here. Drop the chat what I'm getting at. You carry a freaking hatchet or an axe. You all are safe here. I'm not going to throw you out. I'm not going to ban you. I just want you to have an open mind to what we have been discussing for months. So in the book, he says he's holding a firefighter object. I think James or Vicky, who wrote this book, is truly telling us somewhat of the answer. Oh my God, the vacuum if finding ridiculous. Yeah, it was a little ridiculous. A bit like a vacuum. Okay. They make eye contact for a split second. She shuts her door and looks around for her taser. The battery is dead. So when people are saying, oh no, it was Bethany, no, the book says it is Dylan on page 67, chapter 18. And I just want to clarify most of the rumors running around that I personally have seen on the Tickety Talk, on YouTube, and those people who just are unaware. The court files mention of this public device. There's no mention of this taser in the court documents, and verbally Bill Thompson said that it was some type of canister. Do you think he's going to go in court and say, guys, it was an axe? No, they're not. It's a play on words. Okay? the third highlight that I noticed is pretty interesting because I had a problem with this way in the beginning. Xana's body placement. Okay. The book states that Xana was laying face up in her bedroom, door slightly ajar, which it argues explains why the roommate Dylan didn't notice blood. Now, I don't know where they came up with that, but if you remember my past videos, and if you haven't seen them, I highly recommend take a peek at some of the videos in regards to the house layout. The court testimony actually official reports align with the scene layout. The room was partially closed, no visible blood from the highway, so this is consistent rather than contradictory. But the contradictory issue that I had with the actual PCA, which is the court document, is that the door opens right to left. Follow with me. I wish I would have had a screen for this. The door opens right to left. So as Xana was laying in her room, her body had to keep the door open. That means that her body was not all the way in her room and could be seen more than we've been shared. Logically. Absolutely logically. Now, over time, you bring a really good point to this. I believe it was Xana's trash can and he took it to put his bloody clothes in. If he did, the trash can would be surely missing from Xana's room, but we have no way of knowing if that's true or false. We have no way. So that would be called hearsay. That's just somebody saying that. There's no evidence that we know of yet that could absolutely be the truth. And a canister type of container could be an extinguisher. I agree with you, but why would they need an extinguisher? Was there a fire? I don't know. That's kind of scary. I know you're speculating, guys. We all speculate here. We're just talking about theories, but for this live, we're talking about the book. Now, one thing that holds true is, we could talk about this theory all day long. The tunnel vision of the sheath, right? Tunnel vision is that the three-letter agency which gave ISPMPD the name of the perpetrator and only one name, they had tunnel vision on this individual only. No one else could have been there. And if we want to go back to the fire, part of the taser or whatever the book part, if you want to go back to that, I even said, how do we know it wasn't a black light wand that they were looking for or cleaning up with? Hey, Justice Jane, I'm glad you found my channel. Welcome. So that was one of the things. Now, the victim and family portrayals an authorial bias. And what I mean by that, in the book, they noted favorable depiction of the Chapin family and law enforcement, and they contrasted it with more critical, distant portrayals such as Goncalves, Mogan, and Carnoodle families. But we know a little bit about these families' histories that are so sus. And why did they take a dig at Maddie's biological father in the book? Well, Stacy Chapin is praised. I was very put off by that. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I was very, very put off. And according to the legal documents, all the filings and transcripts are pretty neutral. They focus on legal rules, not moral judgments. So these portrayals reflect the author's narrative, faming more of the killings versus the victims. And that is a factual discrepancies. And if he is friends, Betsy Ross, that would make sense why they would do this. And it kind of breaks my heart, because when you start thinking about why would somebody do something like that, I mean, if you've read the book and you understand, you know, they do paint the Chapins in the perfect light. And actually, I'll just throw this in there as a bonus. In the Amazon docuseries, there is text messages going back that, people, maybe it had something to do with Chapin's bad products. Now, that was thrown in there too to make the Chapins look a little sus. But then you see and you read in the book and you're thinking, what in the heck? Why are they putting them in this light? It didn't make sense to me. Did it make sense to you? Definitely didn't make sense to me. So, there is a couple more topics in this book that really took me for a loop, is this one. And I know you guys know how I feel about this one. This one's a big one. We may never know the answers. And I kind of feel like maybe the Chapins, looking at the situation from my viewpoint and being very unbiased, I kind of feel like the Chapins felt like maybe Xana wasn't good enough for Ethan. And that's just my humble opinion. That seems that um, it would be logical that with Xana's mom's background, it could be controversial. And perhaps this is why Ethan was included that night, unfortunately. And they seem to have the biggest loss emotionally, especially Ethan's dad and Maisie. Maisie seems to um, have that feeling. I've noticed that. I'm sure you guys might agree. Yeah, especially with her history in the background. So I want to know exactly what happened in that house. Nobody knows. Uh, what does it say? No books right now have the answer. Correct. Just filling 400 to 500. Yeah, most of it was childhood stories, and at best at that, if they were even truthful, we don't know. So the one that really gets me the most, and I know how you guys feel about this, is this incel ideology connection and the symbolic timing, right? The timing was like, wow, it was crazy. You do realize when this came out. Wasn't it around Friday the 13th, guys? Yeah, the news stories broke that he's just like Elliot Rodger. He studied him and he wanted to be like him, and then he wanted to be like X, Y, and Z, right? They targeted in this Elliot Rodger story. I don't know if you're aware of it. It was overseas. He targeted a girl named Maddie, and then he fantasized obviously about a pretty blonde, and he did some horrific things, and then he took himself out of the equation, guys. So if you think about that, that is what the book is trying to claim. That the book describes Brian Koberger's interest in being an incel, and mentions he tries Elliot Rodger, arguing that he like purposely chose Friday the 13th and Maddie's name to emulate Rodger. Okay. Um, and that's just wild at best. The court evidence, let's talk about that. While Koberger's computer and search history did reveal interest in knives, crime scenes, and Elliot Rodger, nothing in court records that we know of that have been released conclusively links Brian Koberger's timing to any symbolic meaning. None. These are just interpretive claims in the book. So the restaurant encounter didn't happen. The taser battery antidote, it's an unconfirmed rumor. The restaurant was unverified. There was even, well, I'll talk about that later. The Xana's body placement and the biased family portrayal goes to narrative enhancement. And then the incel ideology is all speculative. Because, guys, I'm about to show you this picture. Think in your mind, close your eyes right now, and think in your mind how the media has portrayed Brian Koberger. This is a great exercise I want you to do. Close your eyes and think of all the images that the media has shared with you about Brian Koberger. Truthfully, I mean, I'm doing it with you. I can see with my eyes closed that freaking AI picture that they shared, that it was just god awful and it looks like he was a zombie, right? And another one I would think about and see is that stupid picture of him in the bathroom with the thumbs up that they totally used AI. And then I think of a few others, ones they've shared, the overweight kid, and you're following my drift, right? They've showed him as pure evil, monster, serial killer, sick. But let me give it to you truthfully. Phoenix talks the truth. And you may not like this if you're on the replay. If you don't like it, this channel's not for you, because this is the real side profile of Brian Koberger. Doesn't look creepy, not that many bushy eyebrows, not so creepy as they have made us believe. And this was taken from a court hearing procedure. Okay? Doesn't have the deep dark eyes. He actually has blue eyes. So every single picture that they are sharing with you in the media, they have changed the pictures with digital technology. That blows my mind and makes me think, why would they do this? What are your thoughts? Why would they do this? Why would they make you believe he's some creepy murder incel that just has nothing? Now hold that thought for a minute. Hold that thought. You may think he's creepy because the general public believes people with autism are creepy. They keep to themselves. They have nothing to offer our society. It is absolutely disgusting, in my humble opinion. Why did they target Brian Koberger? We may never know, but they have continued to share this narrative enhancement to make us believe that this guy is some type of creepy guy. Did he do this? Is my question. Because you have the prosecutor that gets up and says there's no connection between him and the students. There's no crime. There's no crime weapon. There's no stalking. He wasn't located there. So what do we have left to go on? Why did they even charge him? Anyone drop the answer below that you know? Maybe if you know, we should all know. So this book offers emotionally rich storytelling, guys. A little bit of background detail, not much truth, unless the interviews that they said they conducted were actual people, right? I mean, if you think about this, they had to have interviewed at least some of their friends. They did have friends. Who else could they interview since there was a gag order? I don't think there were very many other people they could have interviewed, especially in this book. There's no motive that anyone seems to know. So why would they paint a picture like this to sell books? Or is it just to sell books? What are your thoughts? Do you think they did it just to sell books? There is no motive, guys. There's absolutely no motive. And that should blow you away. So what have we been watching for the last 2 years and 8 months? Oh, sorry, my internet may have cut out and then I had a sound issue. So, I mean, we can look through the initial probable cause affidavits. We can, look at search history, links, and things like that. But there is no motive. None. What do you think about that? You have no motive. Do we even have a crime? That's a great question. Do we really have a crime, in my humble opinion? We may not even have some type of motive. If you have a motive, share it below. Do you think there is a valid motive for Koberger? That's one of the biggest things. The tunnel vision I talked about, they just totally threw him under the bus. The book amplifies his porn, proximity checks, and just some other notes that I had in my book. It's totally narrative enhancement all over. It's to build tension. Patterson and Ward structured scenes like the reoccurring nightmare to give you some dramatic backstories. I'm going to tell you, I walked away after the book and done reading it, and my sense was conflict. I mean, I just had some emotional conflict about what I read and some factual conflict. Not necessarily the official record, guys. The book just subtly uses these techniques to suggest motive, but they can't replace testimony or forensic proof, which we didn't even get because there was no trial. Bottom line, it won't be something you missed in the book. It's just a storytelling, and the trials weren't held. So the narrative is just compounding to give you that psychological, my God, what really happened type of book. It's all speculative. And that's my humble opinion. I'm sticking to it. Without a trial testimony, there's a fine line between speculation of interpretation and facts. And this book blurs both. Both. So, the upcoming hearing is going to be on the 23rd. I even did a map. I did a map according to the court records. And on this map, it specifies in my video, if you haven't seen it, it's just a short 1.5 minute video. I tracked 100 meters outside the house, and you can see, I mean, I could bring up the picture. I don't know if I could download it real quick, but you can see the actual, hold on, let me pull this up. Let me see if I can make this picture bigger and download it. I mean, this is a great reference that I want to show you to get your mind in line with the facts. So give me 1 second. I'm going to upload it for you because not only do I look at certain things, I will totally share with you my findings. Now, when this came in my mind, I was like, okay, the cell phone ping data showed Koberger 100 meters within the location of the house. Okay. So right in that center dot is 1122 King Road, where it stood at one time. When you start on the map, you can trace the distance. If you walk 328 feet, which is 100 meters, 100 meters was in the book. If you walk 128 feet in any direction that you possibly can, like on this map that I did, if I was physically there, I would walk in 5 directions. Well, totally, maybe 4, north, east, west, south. But that 5th one I threw in there to kind of give you an idea of where houses were located in the area. And you can see that off to the right is Linda Lane, right there. And you can also see the Queen Road apartments that are right there. On the back, bottom right is Ridge Road. Bottom left is Valenta Drive. Valenta Drive goes all the way up and onto the upper left. And then Taylor, I put as a, because that's 328 feet, just in the general vicinity. Now, if you look at all those little boxes in between, those are specific houses and apartments. And guys, this was not just known as a party house. This was known as a party freaking area. This whole area across the street on Taylor Avenue, on the other side is the Banfield and Sigma Chi. Okay? Now, this picture represents any of the locations that Brian Koberger could have been other than 1122 King Road because the prosecutor could not connect him to that house. So when you start looking at this picture, the majority of the houses in this area were rented out to college students, except, I will state this, in the whites across from King Road, in the whites and in the Queen Road apartments, there lived actual people who did not attend college, traditional working adults in the community. Now, let's just say that maybe 30% of those adults work in the community at restaurants, at the college, at other places, and that this is an area that's known to be a drug infested area. And the Moscow Police Department say, oh, no, we don't have a problems with drugs. All the other people in the town, oh, no, we don't have problems with drugs. Yeah, you can go and look at Moscow Police Department. We did this the other day on a live, guys, and I don't want to get too far into it. Moscow Police Department annual reports. And you can go and you can pull up any single year you want. Any year, factually, because you can go right to their website, and I'll show you, because I don't want anyone to say, oh, you know, that's not true, that can't be true, you are telling a lie, or you are not being truthful. Yeah, you guys, anyone can go right to their website. I'm going to add it up here. And you can see factually that this was a problem area with drugs, unfortunately. I mean, we can start in 2021 before the crimes. Okay? Let's just start there so that everyone is on the same page. And I'm going to share this. So right from their website, you can see I pulled up right here 2021 reports. Anyone can go there. I opened up 2021 and I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to look at the report. It'll tell you all kinds of stuff. It'll tell you about the community. It'll tell you about all the programs that they're working on. They'll tell you about their dog drug squad. They'll tell you about the drug liaison that works at the university. They'll talk about the programs in the community in regards to drugs. And then they'll go down and they'll even give you, you know, their history on seatbelts and tickets and all this good stuff and what they're doing. And then, by the way, they actually have MPD drug case workload. Okay? And it gives you the history of what they've taken in fentanyl, heroin, and methamphetamines. They also investigated 5 cases where both methamphetamine and heroin, as well as 5 cases of meth and fentanyl, were seized. And they also worked with the Latah Recovery Center and the New Crisis Center and all these other things. And then they talk about the Quad Cities. They talk about all their policemen on the police department and what they've done to make this place better. And they even collect, prescription drugs, because that seems to be an issue out there. They talk about drug court. They talk about anti-crime and the Fraternal Order of Police. They talk about all these things if you want to know. Then they give the breakdown of all their citations, all their calls. Do you know that 10% of their calls are actually at the universities? Yeah, most of their calls are at the university. Like 10%. U of I related calls, 1,061 calls that year out of 11,000. That's about 10%. So, I mean, they give you the historical information that you're looking for right here in these reports, and it'll show you how many arrests were made this year versus last year. And let's just look. Drug, narcotic arrest, 69. Last year, 42. Drug equipment violations, 21, 8. Okay, then they have, you could see that theft is going up in that area too. So when they say, oh no, we don't have that bad, they have a drug dog now. Okay. So, I mean, you can go through these whole annual reports and you can see absolutely what's happening in there. I mean, they're not hiding anything. It's just for the average reader to either know or not know. And that's it. So in this book, do you think that this book even mentions one iota of the real problem there? No, we haven't had any autopsies released. We don't know what the substance, or if any, was in their bodies. No idea. Do you think that they'll let us know? They have a problem admitting that they have a problem. Think about it. It blows my mind. So if I go to the book on my little Kindle right here and I do a real quick search and I type drug, there are a few instances of drugs. Chapter 4 talks about Xana isn't much used to rules. She grew up in Post Falls, pretty much without her mother, Kara, who'd been battling drug addiction most of her life and gave up custody of Xana and her sister, Jasmine, in 2006. Xana adores her dad, Jeff, but he traveled frequently for work, so Xana and Jazzy were often left on their own. Now, that's one instance that they talk about the drugs in this book is related to the parents. Is this true? Yes, court records do indicate that there's some issues with drugs. I don't know why they mention this, but obviously about Koberger and possible stealing prescription drugs and on drugs and all that other stuff. His friend that OD'd with drugs. And then you look a little bit down and they talk about cybercrime and terrorism and drug crimes and drug court, but nothing do they ever mention that this is a town riddled with a drug problem. And what is all these agencies doing to keep this away from the college Greek life frats, students? Thank Janeba. I appreciate that. So what are they doing? And your question is, why frame BK if they had the whole town of junkies to choose from? Make it make sense. Boy, that is classic. And that is a great question. And you have to start throwing out the possibilities that was he an informant? What was he doing in that area if that was a known drug area? Was he back to using again, or was he perhaps on assignment? Which one was it? I don't think Kaylee and Maddie were using. I don't think so at all. Yeah. And so, then they put in here on chapter 64, page 202, you start reading it and it says, but right now Moscow has a public perception problem, a safety problem. Crazy rumors include one of the Colombian drug cartel being involved in the murders and are running rampant. So this sounds like narrative enhancement. He is trying to tell you there is no drug cartel that runs through there. But yet, if you look at Moscow's police reports that I just showed you, something is not right. 2 of the 6 parents, roommates in that house, I should say 3, have drug arrest that could possibly have been informants. And that is the God's honest truth. All court records. You can't hide from facts. So then they talk about this crazy drug rumor, but yet we have factual information. They talk about Anne. There's a crazy rumor that, but when she learns it was a knife attack and that drugs were not involved, she stops suspecting Emma. And this is Lexi, right? Emma. When Lexi sees all the stuff about floating around on TikTok, about Koberger and his strange behavior, she's relieved that he's not from Moscow. And then there's the narrative enhancement again, the outsider, right? Think about this, outsider. Why would they blame an outsider? Was that the easiest scapegoat? Somebody with ASD that may or may not had a drug problem still? I don't know. This book, police didn't find it when they first went in. This is on page 134, the knife sheath, and I talked about this just a little while ago. Someone planted the knife sheath, he tells her. This is God, who was it talking on page 418? I can't remember who it was, but they say there's a lot of drugs in that house, a lot of people around, but they only looked at Brian. You know how he likes to drive around when he's nervous. That's what Koberger's dad was telling an old friend he ran into. Now, I would like to know how they got that information if there was indeed a gag order. That just seemed a little sus to me, guys. So when you read this book in a nutshell, I can go on and on, but those were the major highlights. When you read this book, make sure you have a little discernment, you watch a few hearings, and you definitely read a couple court documents, because that's going to be key. And you need to download those court documents before this whole thing is scrubbed and gone away, because typically that's what will happen. Typically. So I'm going to give you guys the opportunity in regards to the book or anything in court documents for Q&A. So I'm going to go back up, scroll a little bit, see what you guys got, and let's go from there. So let's do a little Q&A real quick. And I'll just read through the comments too. My theory in my last 4 posts. Okay, I'll take a look at those. Then why, hold on a minute, let me grab this. Why don't they listen to the witnesses? It blows my mind, irritates me. I don't know. I don't know who they interviewed in this book. Kathy Maybot said the toxicology reports were irrelevant. Yeah, usually when they say it's not important, it is. And that's just experience. No dog left behind. Both universities have multiple sexual abuse on campus and staffed by police. If you look it up, it's unbelievable for 2 small towns. It is. And they actually, in their MPD report, they talk about this. They have classes about this. So I totally believe the statement. It's terrible. It's really terrible. It's almost probably as worse at a university than it is in the military. Yeah. Sad. Let's see what else. Betsy, if you click your Amazon account page, you're clicking pages without deleting your account. Deanne's dad, being a big-time prosecutor, definitely got me searching sus for me. Now, DM's dad is not a prosecutor. Her stepmom, Patricia Monroe, was a prosecutor for Ada County. Okay, her dad is not. Her dad is a business guy in the Boise area, and he has no law background. Let's see what else we've got. Steve G told us they need him, they want to keep him. They need him, they want to keep him. Sounds like he's an informant to me, in my humble opinion. Steve G also said the university hired a guy to kill, didn't he? He did. But when he said it, I think that he meant they were employed by the university, but he didn't say who was employed by the university that was the killer. And he made it seem like like there's more than one unaliver, more than one murderer, in my humble opinion. And if you think about it, they all knew each other. And this is why I said third party knowledge. If indeed Koberger knew Emma and Demetrius, then that would mean the 6th degree of separation. You know, the one with Kevin Bacon, like you're all connected. He would be connected that way, but he had no direct connection with this house or these individuals. If you think about it, they all knew each other, Emma. I am sure she knew the door dasher, Brian's apartment, the door dasher. So when he lived at his apartment, like everyone was doing rugs. Yeah, because you know what? In a small community such as this, the door dasher knows just about everyone, right? They go to all kinds of people's places. They would have names. They would know people. And if it was Brian, he would have said his name. I believe so. He would have said his name. Steve has never said Koberger's name, guys. If you go back and you start watching, makes sense. Makes sense. Let's see what you got here. You guys are just flying. The chat's flying. In Oklahoma City, and everybody that does drugs, they know the drug dealers and they know where to get it. I left my ex because that life is scary. He's getting 20 years selling, fitting to an undercover. Interesting. Very interesting. Why would anybody be removing organs if they're dead 8 hours? These organs are expired. I agree. If you know anything about organ donation, they have to be alive on ice. Do we know for a fact that they were removed? No, we don't. We have no idea. No idea. Why would Emma hire BT? Bill Thompson? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. And Steve G's Nathan Sales of narc, but he got off Washington, then convicted of murder in Washington. Yep, sure did. It's all public record. All public record. So why not ask for a speedy trial as your right? Never let the state build a case. Also, where's the knife and sheath? Does anyone care about that? Yeah, I did a live yesterday about the rights that may have been violated in this case and overlooked, and that everybody needs to know their rights. But the right to a speedy trial was waived. That means that they had more time to build a defense and the prosecution had more time to build a prosecute. But the knife sheath was found laying next to Maddie Mogan per the PCA. The knife has never been found. There is no confession, no murder weapon, no connection to the house or the individual, and definitely, what? No stalking. So you can't even say for an definite fact that he did this, other than he took a guilty plea. He said yes and no to guilt to get off the death penalty. Would you do that? Would you do that? That's my question to you. And when you read this book, make sure you have the PCA and make sure you listen to some hearings, because Ann Taylor clearly said in the hearing that I showed you in a couple videos ago, she believes in her client, she believes in his innocence, and she would never do anything to harm him. So that, my friends, is what you need to have when you read this book. Think about it as a college lecture. I can't speak. Think about it as a college lecture, and this is a guidebook. You still need to have the actual facts in front of you in regards to this case. Think of it as a homework assignment. You need to have the PCA, you need to have watch a couple videos, read the book, and you can pick out the things that don't make sense. Bill Thompson, we don't think he went in with intent to kill. He also said that he didn't intend on unaliving or murdering all four. So that led me to believe that maybe only two passed away. But that's just me, in my humble opinion. Read the book or not, figure it out for yourself. I promised I would do a simple, long-form Q&A on some of the things that didn't make sense in the book to me. All the rest is just a bunch of fluff, the background, the history. But one thing that stood out to me in this book, I will say, is it makes sense to me. And let me see if I can find the one video to show you. Because the one thing that did make sense was this. Let me see if I can find it. In the book, he talks about, or Vicky, whoever wrote this book, they talk about Mean Girls. And they talked about how they were possibly dissing the fraternity. Because remember, Maddie and Kaylee and Xana no longer belong to the sorority. And allegedly, Kaylee was supposed to be Dylan's +1, but didn't go. And this was supposed to be some type of revenge for the unalivings, allegedly. And there is a video out there. You know what? Let me give you guys some homework. And then I'm going to ask you a question. There is a video out there where on Halloween, Dylan is dressed in the worst costume you could ever think of. I don't know if this was a trick or a gimmick or they got her to dress up like this or what. She's wearing this blue wig and she looks like a doll. And everyone's treating her like a baby. I don't know what this is. Yes, the sorority is on probation for bad behavior in November of 2022. You guys want to go down that rabbit hole, definitely do. But in that video, it seemed like they were hazing Dylan, and perhaps she didn't like it. And this was back in October, and there was an incident with Kaylee they do not mention in the book. That's interesting. So I want you to keep this with an open mind. Go and try to find that video, and then ask yourself, could this have been someone else and not Bryan Kohberger? Make sure y'all just make sure you click that button up there, thumbs up, subscribe, notifications sent to all. Goodbye, you little nesters. Have a great Sunday. Get some rest. Go ground yourself. Have a cup of hot tea and maybe just sit around and enjoy your loved ones. And do you think that Bryan Kohberger actually did this? I'll see you guys soon. And as always, what do I say? Be well, you guys.
Clap, clap, clap for the truth we seek. Every answer, week by week.
Yo, microphone check 1 2. This ain't no ordinary stream. From the ashes, Phoenix talks manifest in a dream. Got a growing channel, YouTube's where the wisdom resides. For all the Nest members, no truth can ever hide. She's an under-detective on the digital beat, questioning the unthinkable, bringing fire to the heat. With a mind so advanced, highly intelligent and bold, part of the hive mind with birdie stories to unfold. Common sense is a superpower, cutting through the noise, unlocking closed minds, amplifying all our voices.
Phoenix, Phoenix, what do you see?